What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Martian and Ozzy podcast. This week, we are going to be talking about the UFC 294 pay-per-view going down in Abu Dhabi, UAE, headlined by the rematch between champion Islam Makhachev taking on fellow champion Alexander-Volkanovski in a rematch of a fight we saw earlier this year. Big co-main event with Kamaru Usman and Hamzat-Chimaev, two late notice fights on this pay-per-view, so a lot to be excited about. And we're going to talk about all 13 fights from a betting perspective here with my man, as always, week after week. Ozzy, how we doing this week, my man?
Buenos dias, amigos. We're back. Finally, a pay-per-view here, which I would say is the start of a bunch of great cards to end the year. With that the UFC put together last week. Obviously, we got an epic fight with Barboza, kind of like a throwback performance. I was praying. I was like, or not praying, but I was saying like spin kick, like kick this motherfucker in the head, like the whole time. And then he did it. It was like a video game, dude. So that was great. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully this 10 a.m. card that I think you told me. I thought it was noon, but 10 a.m. So all is good.
Yep, first fight 10 a.m. on the East Coast, 2 p.m. start time to the main card. A lot of international fighters here, not too many American fighters. There are a lot of guys from, fighting all over the world. Some interesting matchups. Some of them don't make sense. A lot of big underdogs. I think looking at the lines, we only have maybe two or three fights that are in like the minus 100 to 200 range, while we have just a ton of 2, 3, 4, 500 underdogs here. So we gotta pick and choose and find some good underdog spots. But as you mentioned, Barboza, amazing fight last week. One of the few winners for me. Not the best week of reads for me. Barboza and Christian Rodriguez came home, but was pretty well off on the rest of the things I bet there. How about you?
Yeah, I think I finished down like 2 units or 2.5 units, or excuse me, 2.9. And yeah, I got the last two, the co-main and the main, right, the Brazilians. But it was mainly overextended on Yanez and then losing on Rodriguez versus Simon fight, which I thought was close. But I stayed to saying, hey, I'm gonna get the best price, plus 136, but probably should have stayed more on the goes the distance on that fight, which I did pretty well in the props overall. But yeah, dropped a few units, but nothing, just one of those fights swings the other way, but weren't really very good bets, the money line ones. So I wish I would have just invested a little bit more in the props. Maybe took some of the money line risks down. But we're on to next week.
Yeah, I was out for this card. I missed the entire thing live, and there was a while, like a few years, where I was just not missing a single fight. And then this year had some other stuff come up, and had to miss a few cards. And honestly, guys, it really wasn't that bad. Like missing some of these fights, and just rewatching them, it's not a big deal. It's really not. Like some of them, like they're just not that interesting, where you have to be glued to your TV. So if
And then
something
when
ever
they are
comes up.
interesting, when something cool happens, then after you got fucking Alan Joban fucking talking about it like you care. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Petrovsky gets knocked out round one, and then they got to filibuster all this time.
Oh, right,
So
yeah, before the fight, there's
it's
15
some
minutes of
bullshit.
shit. The fight lasts 60 seconds, and then there's 15
Mhm.
to 20 minutes of shit afterwards, while you rewatch it, and you can get that shit done in 2 minutes, fast forwarding.
Yeah, there
So,
was definitely no real good. Not that I like live betting spot other than Barboza, I
yeah,
guess, or
yeah,
the main
Barbosa.
event. And then I guess the Jenny Maya one got close at the end, and then I guess Rodriguez. They actually there was a good opportunity there, but other than that, not really nothing.
Yeah, so if you ever get an invitation to do something on a Saturday night and you're thinking, "Oh, there's
Yeah,
like
but
this fight night, it's an okay fight night," bro, just go ahead and
for
touch
sure.
grass, touch
But
concrete for
but
once.
everybody's gonna watch this pay-per-view, so let's get into it.
That is true. We're gonna start things from the top as we do nowadays. The rematch, 145 champ versus 155 champ fight took place just February earlier this year in Australia. This time going down in Abu Dhabi. We got Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski. Odds for this one: Islam minus 252, Volkanovski plus 212. Just to remind everybody, the first fight it closed with Islam minus 350. and it closed with Volkanovski plus 275. Another interesting change is the fight going the distance last time closed plus 220, already down to plus 100, even money this time. So go ahead and start things off first about your thoughts
Cool.
on the rematch.
V Awesome. Great introduction. So, obviously, this fight is Islam's last fight. Volkanovski, had the Yair fight in between. Short notice fight here. Obviously, I think that fight, basically how it ended was, you felt Volk probably is building into the fight, right? That 5th round was a very, very good round for him. But a few things that I took away from the fight. One, the that Islam's bottom game there, like when he was on bottom under Volk, Volk was pretty comfortable on top, landing ground and pound pretty easily. And then even the back take situations and some of the grappling, it was neutral for more time. There were like more neutral settings, more time that I really maybe thought, or that was good. I thought like Volk sometimes was going for takedowns himself, like was aggressive and clinching things like that. And then when he did give up his back, I felt like it was some undisciplined mistakes where he could have stayed in that neutral position, made Islam kind of actually do a maneuver, like, really do something to get to one of those positions and try to counter it. But instead of that, he tried to escape too early, and then Islam was able to counter. So I feel in this fight, Volk has a lot more takeaways from the last fight that he can improve upon in this one. And I feel that that style, that kind of like grappling style, Russian style, it's just a hunch for me that it's one where grappling wise, I think that you just get a little bit better going against him. And Volk being such a cerebral fighter, I do think that he just like evolves in his rematches and just kind of like takes away some stuff and will just get into more positions and opportunities that force the issue or whatever it may be into places that will benefit him and make this and make produce a close fight again and I like the plus money side. So I got 205, and then I also went in at plus 255, where it was at that price. I think yesterday it peaked there, but I just like Volkanovski. Give me him, and hopefully. And one other thing, I think Islam training for that Charles fight, a guy that he already beat pretty easily. And now he's kind of got to go into a fight where there's like much more attrition. Like, it could be going into later rounds. Volkanovski is kind of like a leg kicker. He could fight from both stances. He kind of comes at you at angles and things like that. So I just think there's a good setup potentially for Volk as long as he is in any kind of shape. And I just feel like he wouldn't burn this opportunity if he didn't think he had a shot. So I'm gonna trust him and back him here as a 2-1 dog.
So the first fight was a great one. I think pretty easy fight to score. Third and the 5th round for Volk, 1-2-4 for Islam. But, that's a pretty clear 3-2, right? So, what was the price? What was the rerun of the price in that fight? I mean, he was minus 350, 77%. Obviously, that was off if it came down to 3 rounds to 2. Also, that 4th round, you saw some people scoring that for Volk. That's wrong. I mean, he had his back taken. Those little stupid punches from the back did not win him the round. But let's say he gets like a 2-on-1 on one of his arms and he turns that back take and he ends on top for the last minute and the Australian crowd's going fucking crazy and he's throwing ground and pound. Then it all of a sudden becomes Volkanovski 3-2. So that fight was extremely close and it really came down to one round. And we know how quickly rounds can change. We see it all the time every week. The last 30 to 60 seconds, a round completely changes and the judges score for one fighter. So obviously, that first fight was much closer. The line is a little closer now, Islam minus 252, but it's still not might be tight enough, honestly, because that first fight, it kind of just seemed like Volkanovski ran out of time, right? He was figuring things out and having more success as the fight goes on, as he typically does in all of his fights. I mean, this guy is the epitome of a 5 round fighter. He gains confidence and he gets better in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round. I don't think that's the case with Islam. I think that Islam's style is not really built for 5 rounds, and that was kind of exposed in that last Volkanovski fight. That was the first competitive 5 round fight he's ever been in. Some of his other fights, like the Moises fight that got into the 4th round, wasn't competitive. That was the first time he was really tested, and I don't think his cardio held up there at all. Even in round 4, when he got that takedown and that back take, he was completely holding on. He was not aggressive. He was not looking to submit at all. He really had very little energy in those third, fourth, and fifth rounds. So he's also, I mean, Ozzy's brought up a good point about his, his matchups is that he breezed through Oliveira. He knocked him down on the feet. He submitted him on the ground. Volkanovski, not an easy fight at all. He knows that he ended round 5 getting beat up on bottom, losing that round. And it's got to be a little bit different of a psychological fight. So I think the betting value is all over Volkanovski here. And I'm also leaning the fight to go the distance. I think it should go the distance. Even though both guys had each other in some bad spots last fight, I don't think either were really close to finishing each other. And with that, what I mentioned, Islam, his energy, I don't think really allows him to finish in the third, fourth, and fifth. And I don't think he's going to have those same big moments on the feet like he did with the straight left hand or the head kick that stumbled Volkanovski a little bit. I don't see that happening here. So I'm cheering for Volkanovski. I hope the line goes back up a little bit. I would like to get one of those better numbers on Volk, but 2-1 on Volk is good. And I'll just straight up pick him to win the fight. I'll pick Volkanovski by decision here. Uh, you know, it is in Abu Dhabi. That's gotta favor Makhachev, but I was going over some of the judging recently in Abu Dhabi, and I think it's pretty accurate for the most part. Jan O'Malley did happen in Abu Dhabi, which I consider really badly, but they usually have some good experienced judges, guys to judge all around the world. So I don't think there's anything to be too worried about for hometown cooking there. So enough about that one. Amazing fight on short notice. Speaking of short notice fights, main or co-main event in the middleweight division, Kamaru Usman moving up in weight, taking on Chimaev. Chimaev was supposed to fight Paulo Costa. Instead, we're getting this fight. Chimaev minus 330, Kamaru Usman plus 270. So, man, what a fight. No one really saw this coming. Came out of nowhere. It's a fight that we've been thinking about for years, but we end up getting it on just, 10 to 12 days notice. So I kind of like that. You don't have a whole lot of time to build the anticipation, but you're getting like instant gratification of having the fight right away. So I'm excited for that. And it's interesting to think about what Shemaev's approach is going to be here because he definitely seems to wrestle as like a plan A versus most guys. However, Usman is an extremely talented wrestler. So that's got to be the path of more resistance, I think, is going to the wrestling. But I think Chimaev will likely do it anyway. I think we'll see a blend of striking and wrestling, but I definitely think he's gonna go to the wrestling as like maybe to prove a point. And we've seen Chimaev like with his wrestling at times, he uses a lot of strength and energy and he kind of muscles his way into positions at times. And if guys, use that first layer of good defense, we see him, use a lot of energy to lift them and then I just don't see him having that wrestling success against Usman here. And on the feet, I just found Chimaev striking to be very meat and potatoes versus Gilbert Burns. Just a lot of straight shots and obviously, his defense is not very good. He showed an insane chin in that fight down to 170, so up at 185. The guy's durability should not be an issue. I don't see Usman, hurting him with any shots here, uh, especially early, maybe later in the fight. But I generally just think that if this fight hits round 2, Usman is going to be looking extremely live at near 3-1. I mean, when have we ever seen Usman at these odds? It's a good chance that we'll never see him as on nearly a 3-1 underdog ever again. So leaning with the betting value here on Usman. I just think uh, that this line is a little crazy, despite the size difference, despite the short notice. Like Ozzy said against Volkanovski, these guys are champion level fighters. They're not just going to be throwing their hat in here for a payday or whatnot. I mean, I think Usman is definitely in shape and he's prepared and he's going in here to win the fight. So I think a small bet on Usman is warranted before the fight, and then just be looking to add even more live because Chimaev's cardio in the Gilbert Burns fight, the only time we've seen him extended, did not look very good at all. So definitely cheering for Usman here and I'll pass it over to you.
Cool fight, banger alert for sure. I was there's talking about Usman fighting Balal, and you're like, God, please, don't let that happen. Like nobody wants to see that, in my opinion. But either way, so the most unfortunate thing is that the fight, the Usman notice. I don't think the weight is an issue. Like Usman definitely cuts a lot of weight. It's probably good for him, like for him to have a little bit more. Because sometimes how he takes shots, like I feel he needs to kind of get woken up. I feel sometimes, maybe to put it bluntly. But maybe here he'll be able to get out the gate faster, which I think will be imperative because people always talk about how aggressive Chimaev is, always like whether it be training, in fights. Obviously, you see him. But Kamaru Usman, he is like a pretty savvy guy on the mat in terms of like scrambles and stuff like that. But we really haven't seen too much of his jujitsu game, like in actual, like if he got put on his back or Damian Maya wrapped his eyes up pretty quickly, but he was able to stall them out. So I definitely think him getting submitted is live. But I think I'm gonna like to just go with Usman on the money line now that it's getting even closer to 3-1. So I'm gonna just keep waiting. I feel like Chimaev is definitely parlay fodder, especially with people seeing that video today and saying, "Oh, his knee pop." Someone said his fucking neck pop. Someone was like his elbow. Right there, like his elbow, because that's the Gaethje grab. Then other people are like it was his knee because he grabs his knee after. Then someone's like, "Oh no, he hit his head." So there's a host of things, dude. But I think he's perfectly fine. But I think I like a hedge of Chimaev knockout round one, just because I do think this guy hits hard. He usually hits clean, and Usman oftentimes does get hit kind of clean on his feet. But then into Usman money line though as well, because I do think Usman's got great straight punches, pretty good timing as well, and like funky timing because he's got kind of like like pretty long arms as well. And he'll be able to start landing on Chimaev. I think if he's able to get to neutral positions in the wrestling, I do think that he could tie. His cardio is still world class. Doesn't matter if he's in camp or not. So I like Usman. Just a good play, money line here, and then maybe we could get a big number on some kind of early Chimaev knockout.
And rewatching that Burns versus Chimaev fight was just a lot of fun. I mean, that fight was just peak UFC right there. Amazing stuff. But just seeing that fight, how it played out over 3 rounds, close fight, 2 rounds to one. I don't see how Usman is looking to look bad at 270. Next fight, a fight I don't have too much interest in. Light heavyweight division, Magomed Ankalaev, Johnny Walker. Magomed minus 350, Walker plus 285. Your turn to start this one off.
Okay, so light heavyweight contender fight. Um, I don't have an incredible amount of thoughts. I just do feel that Magomed is gonna get this win. And I often don't parlay, but I did parlay Magomed Ankalaev. And I just feel that like the people that are thinking that this line isn't wide enough kind of see that Walker kicked Anthony Smith and he could do it to Ankalaev, where Ankalaev is just not going to let that happen for free. Like even when Jan, perfect example, when Jan was kicking the crap out of him, he was like, "All right, well, I got to take this guy down." And he took him down, and he kind of ground and pounded him pretty good. So I think a similar thing can happen here. I just think Johnny Walker just gives too much opportunities for him to get hit and potentially taken down. Maybe obviously he's always live to get a knockout with like a strike that'll catch you or those a shot in close. But Ankalaev is long as well. Like he fights from that southpaw stance. Good kicks, good punches, good takedowns. And so yeah, I'm going.
Yeah, I just don't have too many thoughts here, man. I mean, I think it should go over 1.5 rounds. I think it's got a good chance to actually go the full 15. And Ankalaev to me just seems like mostly a lay in prayer nowadays. And I think they're bound to tie up. I think Walker's getting more and more confident in his grappling nowadays. And it just seems like Walker's fights have been going to grappling way more. So I don't think they're going to spend too much time at distance. I think they're going to tangle up. I think they're going to go on the floor. And Ankalaev's probably going to go on top. But I'm just not super impressed with his top game. I don't think he's gonna get Walker out of there super easily. I definitely don't think he's gonna submit him super easily. And I just think he's kind of hesitant to use energy because he doesn't trust his gas tank. So that's why I think this one will stretch over 1.5 rounds. Haven't made a bet on it yet, and I'm not even sure I will, just because I think this fight is stupid, man. It's just a stupid fight, and I don't want to get caught losing money on this one. So no official bet for me there yet.
That's your bathroom break fight. This is your bathroom break fight.
This next one is too honestly, this whole main card is very, Russian heavy, and it doesn't make much sense from an entertainment perspective. But nonetheless, It's also been hit with injury. Next fight, middleweight division, Ikram Aliskerov taking on Warlley-Alves was supposed to be Aliskerov versus Nasruddin Imavov, which would have been an amazing fight, but instead we're getting this Alves moving up to 185 on short notice, and we're seeing Ikram minus 550, Alves plus 400. I mean, Alves is not a bad fighter. He is old, very. I mean, he's 32, but he honestly seems much older than that. Um, and it just seems like he really struggles to push a pace. I know he won round 3 against Nicholas Dalby, but I just think that this guy tires down significantly in his fights. And I think he's probably gonna have a little early burst here against, Ikram, and I think he's gonna run out of steam tremendously in the 2nd and 3rd round. So, Ikram could get it done as early as round 1, but I think the best way to play the fight is just hope Alves competes for a few minutes, makes it to round 2, gasses out on short notice, and Ikram finishes him. Round 2, Ikram is plus 430, and round 3, I think, is plus 1,100. So, small bets on those, and that'll do it for me. Any thoughts from you here?
Not that interested in this fight just because of the weight class difference. I wish they would have just gave Ikram a normal middleweight. But I will be making a wager on this fight, and I'll be taking the under in this fight. I feel Ikram is pretty accurate with his punches, and if he's not accurate, he's usually just always looking to do damage. Orly Alves is there to receive damage, but I don't think he will receive damage well in the middleweight division. So I just think that if he's gonna win the fight, he needs to win it early as well. He needs to, use maybe a speed advantage that he has early on. Use his explosiveness, maybe his submission game, whatever. Give it to me early, Worley. If you're showing up at all, show up early. So I got this fight to go under. And that's at like a minus 160, 165. So I'm going with that.
Yeah, that's not a bad way to play it. I think it probably will go under. Don't love the juice on it, but I think it will come home. Um, anyway, but yeah, I mean, they just have Ikram plus 110 in round 1. I just think that that's a little too high. So, only way I can see playing it is maybe fading that round 1 price. So, um, next fight is going to be the first fight on the main card in the bantamweight division. Saeed Nurmagomedov taking on Marine Gafurov. Odds for this one have Saeed minus 207, Muin plus 177 here.
Okay,
Your
so we got this. Yeah, so we got this bantamweight fight here. Interesting fight. I didn't really see it coming. Because I think Gafrov's only had he only had one fight in the UFC against Castaneda, right? He didn't have another fight
yeah,
other than Castaneda. Yeah, but this guy's had a lot of he's had a lot of MMA fights overall, and he had a lot of them at a young age. I forget what promotion it was, but honestly, if you look at his record, he fought a good strength of schedule competition. And apparently is when he was like 22, 23. But I don't know how old the guy is. They say he's like 27, 28. I don't know. He took like a few years off, whatever. So in this fight though, I just like Saeed in contrast stylistically because Gafurov, he kind of puts his head down a lot of times, kind of just winging overhands. He impressed me in his UFC debut. I did back Castaneda heavily, and I think he was definitely the right side. But he impressed me with how active he was in pursuing like just the victory. Like he was just throwing overhands, shooting takedowns. Like he got dropped, he got back up. He's scrambly. Like he's got a lot of energy in there. But Saeed is going to be in the big cage. Saeed's a great Russian kickboxer. Moves around on the outside, skirts around a lot, throws a lot of kicks. He's the better spin kicker, which this guy likes spin kicking too. But he's pretty good with the spinning strikes. And I just feel he's good at scoring points. And I see a similar fight, a Martian to the Douglas De Silva fight. Especially the
mm,
first 2 rounds, especially. But it's gonna be a bigger cage. And potentially this guy I think might stick his head into a choke as well. He always is in those positions. And Saeed fucked me in the last time. Excuse me for my French. I was on Romanov, and he pulled that out
mm.
of his ass. So he could definitely do that to
Well,
Gafurov
well,
because Gafurov is not as good.
didn't you bet Jonathan Martinez with us? Did you do that?
I did bet, yeah, I did bet. I did take
I think that was
Martinez.
more recent than Kakramanov.
Well, whatever, it doesn't matter. But still, I'm on. If Saeed's gonna do that again, if he can do that, do it again. Like, let's go. So I like him. I got him as a, but I got him earlier under the minus 200. FYI.
Yeah, I lean Gafurov here. I've never been a fan of Saeed. I don't think um, he doesn't build well into 3 round fights. I mean, this guy is consistently running out of gas in the second half of the fight. And I just think Gafurov, pushes a high pace. This guy is extremely aggressive. The Castaneda fight, man, really close. You mentioned he got dropped there. He was kind of winning round one. He got dropped. He came back to win round two and he lost round three. So, I mean, that fight really came down to one big moment. Each guy had a clear round, and then the one competitive round, it was decided by a late Castaneda knockdown. So I thought he fought really well there on short notice. And the guy just is extremely aggressive. He puts up a high output. And I think that if he's able to survive Saeed's best here and he gets into round 2 and 3, I think it's going to favor Gafurov just because he can seem to build fight at a high pace. I mean, he did slow down big time in round 3 versus Castaneda, but that fight was on like 5 days' notice, I think. So full camp this time. I think it's going to bode well for him. He's, fighting in Abu Dhabi, kind of a neutral territory. And, I think Tajikistan is where this guy's from, right? I think, yeah. Yeah, they're doing well lately. They got that one cat who beat, Alves, Rafael Alves. Remember the guy
Who's
who
that?
bit
Oh,
you bet him.
from Philly, from Philly.
No,
Who?
no, no,
What?
I don't think he's from Philly. He
That he beat
bit,
Alves? Who?
um
That he bit? Who? What are you talking about?
this bull was a young Russian guy. You bet him in this fight, and in the first round, he got a point deducted for allegedly biting, Rafael Alves. I mean,
This is a UFC fight?
yeah, yeah. I'm telling you, you bet this guy.
Oh yeah, Aliev.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Tajikistan is on the map right now. So I'm gonna pick Gafurov here. I'm gonna pick him
All right.
to survive and win a decision. I'm gonna go
All right.
decision Gafurov,
Well,
or
the over. You should like the over here. The
it
over is
could
like pick
even
him. He's not finishing Saeed. I'd be surprised.
it could be round 3. Well, let's see, what is round 3 Gafurov? Because like I said, Saeed slows big time. But I don't like the
No,
over
no.
because he could stick his neck out and get choked. I do see that as a possibility. 1600 on Gafurov round 3 on BOL. So I'm sure it's even better on other books. So I like that. Um, that's a decent fight. Flyweight division next. Tim Elliott, Muhammad Mokaev. Odds for this one: Mokaev favored heavily minus 425. Tim Elliott plus 325. Big Mokaev hater. Don't like this guy's style at all. And he probably is sadly going to win here, though. I mean, the fight is destined to end up in grappling, and Mokaev is just strong, man. I mean, he's really really strong in these wrestling and grinding positions where they're trading back and forth against the fence. He does have pretty good cardio. It doesn't seem like he really slows down. Um, but also at times he doesn't achieve a whole lot on the ground. He can spend a lot of time, holding your back, kneeing the thighs, maybe getting a back take. And I see him just kind of holding on to Elliot and Elliot not being able to break free. Elliot's scrappy, he's extremely experienced, but guys, there's just no way he's gonna be able to avoid Mokaev getting Mokaev's hands are gonna be wrapped around him at some point, right? I mean, like Tim Elliott is just a very Weasley-esque fighter, and they're gonna tie up, they're gonna grapple, and Mokaev is just gonna be way stronger. So that not saying that equals him to being minus 425, but I do see Mokaev eventually winning, and I think it's gonna be by decision. I'm betting the fight to go the decision minus 135. Um, I recognize that Mokaev could submit, but I really don't see a finish happening from any way outside of that. And I just think the Mokaev sub is getting overvalued here. So I'll go with Mokaev decision here. Um, Tempted by the Elliott at plus money, but no, man, I don't see him actually winning.
Yes, this is not a fight that I really like. I often don't really. I have a bad time sometimes with more grappling, centric flyweight fights for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah, I'm just not sure if Tim Elliott will keep the same pace of grappling and make the right decisions often enough. So I don't really love Tim Elliott, but he was probably a good value play at a certain number. But I just really don't see Tim Elliott, giving this guy his first L. I think Tim Elliott, he's just gonna get overconfident. Like the thing is with Makhachev, like he against anyone, like you said, he's gonna force grappling. He's gonna be able to grapple anyone in the division. And Tim Elliott is going to make a few boneheaded decisions. So maybe the fight will go over, but honestly, I don't want to I don't want any investment in this fight. So I don't got a great read on it. So I will pass.
We're going to another Muhammad, this time Muhammad Yahya taking on Trevor Peek in the lightweight division. Odds for this one have Peek minus 161, Yahya plus 141. Big time steam on Peek this week, and it is Yahya's UFC debut. So give us your thoughts on him making his debut here.
Yeah, so the people coming back, supporting Trevor Peek. Trevor Peek is a man who deserves support, honestly. So, no shame in that. Looking at obviously the fight against Mariscal was horrible. That was a terrible fight. At some points, like it looked like Peak was just like, wow, like this guy's not going down. Like he was just creating like some of those like tomahawk strikes or sideways punches that he was throwing. I just think he was just trying to mix it up. He's like, well, I don't know how to kick. And I've thrown all the punches that I know. So let me make something up. And he threw those things out. Um, and so I just don't like seeing that obviously in the UFC. But Yahya just doesn't look anything special. He looks a little small, honestly, for the 155 division. You should probably be at 145. But Mariscal is as well. He kicked his ass. But I think you were telling me that you didn't like his grappling. So he probably doesn't have that path, and he's just gonna have to slug with Peak. And obviously, he can maybe connect on Peak's shin, but we know Peak's got what's he number one in, Martian?
He's got the best neck in the UFC.
He's got the best neck, the strongest neck, apparently, statistically speaking, in the UFC. So he should be able to take this Muhammad's shots, and yeah. So I don't think the profit will return. And Trevor Peak, I think he's gonna get some newfound found fans in the Middle East. So, but no investment for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably best to stay away. I mean, I think laying juice on Peak is certifiably insane after what we just saw the last fight. It just the guy has attributes, right? He's tough, but you can just clearly tell in that fight that he doesn't really figure out fights as they go on. He doesn't have a super deep understanding of MMA skill
You think?
in striking or grappling. And he's basically just going out there brawling with dudes. And sometimes they
Alabama's
go down.
finest.
Yeah. Is that where he's from? I thought he was from a different
Yeah.
state.
No, he's Alabama.
Are you sure? I think it's Ar oh,
Yeah,
you're right, you're right.
he's
Um,
Alabama.
so, I mean, Yahya, I did some research on him, I skimmed through his fights. I was referring to his defensive grappling being pretty bad. I think he's a bad defensive grappler, but Peak isn't gonna do that to him, you know? So, I don't know, man. I definitely
Oh,
didn't see
nah.
anything I didn't see anything
Don't
from
put nothing past Peak, bro. You
right.
never know the improvements Peak could be making with that neck.
In the, in the short amount of fights I saw from him, I just did not see anything that really stood out as being like, "Oh, this is gonna be really bad for Trevor Peek." He is very experienced in that region though, fought in UAE a lot. So, man, just a
Mm.
tough fight to get a read on. He's from UAE though. He is from the UAE, so, if anything, they could be giving him this as a setup fight because they know the Peak is, one of the worst guys at lightweight. So,
But the market doesn't care about that. I like
it
that the
does not.
market is not going into
Well, if anybody knows us
your
who's
narrative nation.
laying this
Yeah.
juice on Peak,
I
I would
can't
love to
do
know.
it, dude. I
No.
just can't do it because I just can't do it,
I
man.
bet him we bet him pick 'em last time. We beat the market by 10% and we were still dead fucking wrong. So what does the market
Yeah,
know?
I
Um,
just can't do it, dude.
Banger of a fight
Honestly, if it
next.
goes more up, I might take Yahya, dude.
Yeah, I'm just like a pure fade. Honestly, yeah.
Yeah,
It, yeah, we'll see if we'll see what our buy point is. Um, Next fight, a great fight, bantamweight division, Javid Basharat, Victor Henry. Odds for this one have our man Basharat minus 625, Victor Henry plus 450 here. So your turn to start this one off. Actually, wait. Actually, it's
it's
mine.
yours. It's yours. Yeah.
So just a competitive fight, man. I mean, Victor is old. I think he's what, 36? Yep, 36. Got to the UFC very late, but he's clearly a good fighter. He has a really good striking arsenal. He is not easy to take down. And he's got some, good choke game as well. So it's like I think this guy is a really well-rounded fighter. I don't think there's a single area of MMA where he's bad. And, the kind of the opposite of what I was just talking about. I think he figures fights out well. He's got like a good eye for the fights. He makes observations in there. And just watching him fight, I, consider the guy a good fighter. Now, Javid is a fellow good fighter, much younger. You definitely could call him a prospect. He's still, I think, young enough and inexperienced enough to call him that. Um, his UFC career, I think, has been impressive so far, but also over pretty subpar competition. First of all, his best win is Tony Gravely, a guy who Victor Henry also beat. And then the other wins, Trevin Jones and Mendonça, just straight up bad fighters that I don't think we can value those wins too highly. Especially the Mendonça fight, man. I mean, that fight went the full 15 minutes, and we just saw Nate Maness destroy Mendonça in the first round and just, expose him as a complete bum fighter. So I don't think it's good for Javid that that fight went to decision. I mean, he definitely seems like a decision type of fighter. Doesn't seem like he's ever really chasing the finish. So I just see the fight being competitive, man. Everywhere the fight goes, I see it being competitive. I imagine Javid is going to want to try to get on top here, but I don't think it's going to be easy for him to get on top. I think, the takedown defense, the front choke attempts of Henry will provide some defense, and then on the feet, man, just I imagine it being extremely competitive here, and I think this line of being 86% or higher for Basharat is insane. I think Henry is what, is he the biggest dog on the entire card as of right now? Yeah. He's a bigger dog than Warlley Alves, a bigger dog than Jinyu Fry, and I think he is a great fighter. So the fact that you're getting a great fighter plus 450, Basharat is good. He's promising, but he's just still too inexperienced to warrant this massive, massive favorite over Henry here. So very comfortable with a bet on Henry. Even though he's 450, I'll be laying at least a unit on him. And I wouldn't fault anybody for going more than that because I think this line is significantly off and it will play out as a close, 29-28 decision for one of these guys here. Whatever his plus 3.5 is, too, I imagine will be good because I definitely think I definitely think that Henry should win a round here.
Yes, this is a very interesting fight. I mean, so Tony Gravely, like you said, he shares both these guys as a common opponent, and he actually fought them back to back. And they were basically the same odds. He was the same odds against both. He was the underdog against both of them, but I think Victor Henry was like minus 140, 145. Javid a little higher. He was like 165, 170. Obviously, Javid won a bit more cleanly, but that fight was still pretty competitive at a few certain points. Javid did get the grappling going and was able to control Tony at some points. And I think that is his best bet here to justify this price. But Victor Henry has shown like the urgency, like the get up ability. At times, obviously, he's not the best defensive wrestler, but he does move once he is on the ground. And he is kind of like trying to be active. He's got great cardio. You saw him turn it up and be super competitive in just all his UFC fights so far. So I already played him at a worse price than this. I think I got 420, 415. But I just really like the price overall. I just think that these guys are just in maybe like Javid's a slightly higher tier, but watching some tape on him, like he still does get hit a lot of times. He does have his hands down. He kind of looks to move and roll with punches, which could be good, and he should be okay against Victor Henry because Victor doesn't throw a lot of power, but Victor does throw a lot of strikes. So there's sometimes when you're getting into that defensive cycle, where if a guy just keeps throwing jabs out at you, keeps doubling up, tripling up, in a round, it could start to add up if he's, throwing those flurries and you're not really able to counter him. So I think there's a lot of avenues for Victor to win this fight. I think it will go the distance. So I really like the money line price on him though.
Nice community big underdog there. Hopefully it goes better than our boy Alatang last week. But we're in the fun part of the card, guys. We are in the prelims. We have a lot of juiced favorites here. As I mentioned, only 1 out of 13 fights is in the minus 100 range. So, a lot of big dogs. It's about picking your right spots. There are some bad fighters on this card, but they're on some big prices and they're intriguing prices. And we're going to get into them here in the premier division in the UFC. Cedricus Dumas taking on Abu-Azaitar here. Odds for this one have Dumas minus 250, Azaitar plus 210. Dumas really impressed some people against Cody Brundage apparently because he's a big
Oh,
favorite here, Ozzy.
Yeah, so I mean, we haven't seen Abu in so long. Obviously, that I watched the fight again. I remembered it because I think I had MEB in that fight. But even with how Abu like just kicked his ass early on, I didn't really give him that. I just don't think he's good. Now, Cedricus in his Frem fight, he just looked so incredibly weak, and Frem was just tossing him around. But then obviously he did whatever he did to Cody Brundage, and people, figure that, maybe he can win this. I'm gonna avoid it on the money. Like people were trying to convince me, and I was trying to convince myself early in the week that it's Abu's season, but I just don't think Abu is gonna be able to knock him out. And then obviously I saw his cardio is bad. And I don't know. I don't really think he could grapple either. So I was hoping to get a good price on Cedricus by submission, but wasn't that great of a price. So this will be one of the fights I'm avoiding, but I was even thinking the over, but it's too volatile. I don't have any information really on either of them.
No, I have to place a wager here, and sadly, it is on the guy who has only fought once in 5 years, Abu-Azaitar. It's actually been over 5 years that he's fought one time, so hasn't actually fought in 2.5 years since the MAB fight, and I'm gonna have to bet him here. I really am, just because of the price, man. Strictly because the price. The market doesn't obviously know what to make of Dumas. They keep flipping him between 2-to-1 favorite, 2-to-1 dog. Now he's back to 2-to-1 favorite, and he just to me is clearly a guy who you're gonna want to be fading at big juice money right now. The only guy he's ever covered as a favorite was Cody Brundage, who we know is one of the worst fighters to ever fight in the
He was
UFC.
a favorite in that fight.
No, he was plus 165, but I said he
Oh,
he he looked the
okay,
favorite.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
right, right.
but I mean, the Frem fight with the last time he was minus 200, he looked terrible. He got hurt on the feet, he got thrown around on the mat, and he got submitted. And Josh Frem is not that good. Josh Frem is like a completely middle to bottom tier middleweight. And I'd say that's right where, Abu's probably right at the bottom too. You've got two bottom tier middleweights here, and one is over 70%. So just a easy small bet on Abu here. I favor him on the feet. I'm worried about his cardio, but I don't know, man. I just think that Abu will have opportunities to land offense here, uh, and as long as he has a shred of cardio, I think this guy is perfectly capable of striking his way to winning a round or two. Damas
I,
definitely seems like he's a grappler, but I don't know, man. I don't think this guy's wrestling is actually any good.
I
I
agree
really
with you.
don't think.
It does honestly, it does make sense that the Zaitars or someone was like, "All right, we need someone for Abu to be able to beat." And they're like, "All right, let's see. Come on, if you
Yeah.
can't beat this guy, come on." So
Yep. That's
fuck
a
it.
good
I'm
point.
on
That's
Abu.
a good
I'm
point.
on Abu.
Nice.
Honestly, above 200 is a little ridiculous because
Yeah,
it,
and he
it,
and
it was like
he's a
170.
felon. Abu's a felon too.
Mm.
So I think actually they
He
both.
he won't
I
be
think they.
intimidated by Cedricas. Yeah.
I think yeah. I think they both are actually. Yeah, but Abu was 17. He
Mm.
apparently beat somebody
All right.
up.
Next fight. Next fight.
He doused them in gasoline and was threatening to light them
Okay.
on fire. But yeah, that's just
Jesus
the type of
Christ.
guy you want to bet your money on. He was literally willing to set someone on fire. So anyway, lightweight division now. Anshul Jubli, the pride of Indian MMA, taking on Mike Breeden, the pride of uh
This is a tough
something.
fight for you. This is a tough
It
fight
is
for
a
you.
big fan of both of these guys. But one guy here, Jubli minus 270, Breeden plus 230. Now, I see some guys I respect on Breeden here. Now, there are times where there are big dogs where I'm thinking, man, I really don't think this guy's going to win. And then I see people I know betting him, and I'm like, okay, I'll join in reluctantly. And I'm just going to stay away from it on this time. I really am. I really, really am because Breeden, his head is huge. He's extremely slow. And I just think that Jubilee is honestly the better striker and grappler. He's way less experienced. He doesn't train with very good people. Uh, but I don't know, man. I just think Jubilee straight punches will be landing here. I think Jubilee is capable of taking him down and keeping him down. Breeden's takedown defense is pretty bad. He can hustle his way back up. He is a decent boxer, but Breeden is pretty much strictly an offensive boxer. This guy's defense sucks. His grappling is bad. He's extremely slow, as I just mentioned. Just got knocked out a few months ago by the bum himself, Terrence McKinney. So, man, I'll go Jubli here. I'm gonna stay away. There's just way better dogs in this card than Breeden for me. So, I'm
Boom.
losing faith in Breeden.
Boom, you ended it off very well. There's just way better dogs. And I'm gonna just tell you right now, Jubilee's gonna win. He's just gonna win. Because what you're saying is true. And what are we seeing here? We're seeing a theme here with Mike Breeden, Martian. They gave him Israel's finest, Natan Levy.
Mm.
They gave him America's finest, Terrence McKinney.
Those are kind of
And now
oxymorons, but yeah, go on.
and now they're giving him the, like you said, the pride of Indian MMA, Jubilee. So obviously we give Breeden's a can. I mean, Breeden is as cannon fought, like whatever you think like squash matches, anything like that is in boxing. That's who Mike Breeden is, bro. Even the fight that Mike Breeden took after, which fight was it? I don't know what it was. One of his contender fights. I don't know. He got his arm broken in the fight, and they didn't call it. Then they he like tapped or something like that, and they said like it was after the round had ended, and it was clearly not. Like I guess like that Nick Compton guy.
Mm.
So this guy, you never saw that?
I remember it. Nick Compton's like 40 something. Yeah, 40 something years
Yeah,
old.
Nick Compton broke his arm, dude. So Mike Brinish is not good at anything. Who is he training with? Like he's a bum. So Jubilee's gonna win. I'm pretty confident in it. Actually, I'm just trying to figure out method of victory because honestly, I don't think Jubilee's some
Probably
heavy
sub.
hitter. So I think it's gonna go the distance. Honestly,
I think it's gonna be sub. I'm not gonna be betting on it personally. I think the odds are only like 275. It's nothing too appealing.
interesting.
Um, but I,
What
I
about
saw
sub two? Sub
I
two.
saw some. Oh, it's
Sub two,
425.
1400.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I saw some decent things from Jubilee in terms of like him retaining top position. I
We
think
were
he
big on
understands
him there.
everything. Yeah, yeah, and
We were
that
big.
movie, I think it's called Dangal. It's about Indian wrestling. Good movie. Yeah, Dongle Indian wrestling. So
Mm.
that could come to fruition here. So next is a fight buried on the prelims here. Nathaniel Wood, a top 15 flyweight, buried on the prelims of this Abu Dhabi card, taking on
Featherweight.
Muhammad Naimov. Correct. Odds Wood minus 330, Naimov plus 270. Any interest in the dog Naimov here?
No, I hate Naimov. Always have, always will. I saw a video of him that he had kicked Justin Gaethje and then tried to apologize. So that even made me dislike him more. Like I'm like, ah, he's that kind of guy. But weird fight. Don't know why they put this together. Obviously, Wood is a veteran in the UFC. Got this fight in September though because I saw he was scheduled to grapple Aljamain, and then they were like, oh, this fight offer came in, and it was like a week, like a week out from the event. But anyway, I like this fight to go the distance or to go over. I feel on the feet. Nathaniel Wood, although he did get hit a bit by Feely and get dropped, obviously he's got some kind of good chin, pretty active on the feet, is very quick, jabs, leg kicks, stays on the outside. I think Naimov will be more than happy to have a kickboxing fight. But realistically, Naimov, like it takes him like some of his striking is like in my opinion more flash than it is like substance. And I feel like the leg kicks and stuff. I just don't think he's gonna be able to land too big on Wood. So I like the fight to go the distances. Minus 130. I think he'll take Wood shots pretty well. He's never been finished in his UFC in his MMA career. He's only got 11 fights. But Wood, and then Wood knows how to build into a fight. He won't blow his load early. I don't think he'll be there to be hit early on. So yes, I like that. And then, but then potentially Wood, I do think maybe the grappling could be a bigger delta than
Golf?
I'm putting credit to. So Wood by submission, maybe late. It's only 425, another number, but maybe late a Wood submission round 3, something like that, round 2.
Yeah,
But I like
14,
I like the
1600.
go. I like the goes the distance, but I do potentially like covering myself with a late Wood finish
Yep.
from a late Wood finish.
Complete agreement. The late Wood sub. This guy like has potential to finish. It just seems like he can never actually get it done. It seems like he
He's
really
got pillows
struggles.
for he really doesn't
Yeah.
hit hard, so
No, I
he's
mean
gonna have to
former
land like a
bantamweight.
ton of shots.
Yeah, former bantamweight. Don't think he's gonna be. So I mean, Wood sub. I understand a stab on that. Wood sub 2-3, but yeah, going the distance at -130, I think is being undervalued. Wood fights just historically go the distance, and I think Naimov is decent and tough enough to where he should. Um, he should make it the full 15. I also wouldn't be totally surprised by this line being like wider. Like of all of the fights that are -600, 500 on this card, kind of surprised Wood isn't one of them because I really don't see Naimov, the guy who lost to Colin Anglin, winning this fight. That's a shitty fight. Kind of don't understand why they're giving Wood Naimov there. There could be an ulterior motive. Like I said, Tajikistan, that side of the world. Who knows what
Where's
the UFC
Naimov
has.
from?
Tajikistan also. Yeah,
Oh shit.
big, correlation. So, next fight, I believe the is it the only women's fight on the card? Yeah. In the strawweight division, Jinyu Fry taking on Victoria Dudakova. Odds for this one, Dudakova, huge favorite, -525. Jinyu Fry, +400. I mean, yeah, Dudakova should win. She probably wrestles her way to a victory. Fry is old and awful and falls apart as the fight goes on. So, only way I could see playing the fight is stabbing on Dudakova round 2, round 3. That is it. But the price is horrible, +450, +500. Those are horrible, so probably just best to, pass on this one.
I pass.
Nice, love it. Wait, what's the method of victory for Dudakova?
Submission.
Wow, interesting, submission, which comes in at +350, so, um, look out for that one. No, and we're gonna close things off with a banger. In the Premier Division, I think the 4th middleweight fight on the card. Yep, 4 middleweight fights on the card, what a pleasure. Bruno Silva taking on the debuting Magomedov. Sharabutin. Interesting name. Odds for this one, Magomedov -275, Silva +235. Your turn to start off the last fight on the card.
I love it. Putting this as the opening fight. I think they did want to put the Dudakova one on there, but then they were like, you know what? We're gonna act like we're promoting female sports by making them the second fight. But I
Mm,
love it. I love it that they made this one the first fight because obviously I need to continue my streak, and it's very easy for me to do that on this fight. And did what's her name? Did Emily Ducote win 30-27 last week or no?
I
I don't
think so,
remember.
yeah.
Okay, so boom, we got a winner there because I said decision or -3.5. And then here, what we're taking is obviously we got this guy, the Russian guy, the Dagestani. He's got decent record, has an amateur record as well. Kickboxer, fought some decent guys. He looks pretty good. He looks like a good fighter. But you're gonna give me Bruno Pitbull. What's Bruno's Bulldog? Is he Bruno
Yeah.
Bulldog as well? Bruno, we're gonna give me this Bulldog
Wait.
at plus
No, I don't know if,
whatever
sorry,
he
go
is
ahead.
plus 235 in a kickboxing fight. I mean, this other guy, he doesn't really throw too many punches. He has an assortment of kicks. But Bruno Silva, he came from that M1 local thing where he's fought a few Russians, before. And I think him getting kind of clipped and hurt by Brendan Allen and then subsequently finished on the ground has people a little low on him. In fights like that, when you got a guy that's like much more technical and experienced and stuff like that, I think they'll be able to weather the Bruno Silva storm. And maybe the thing that I told you about Magomedov is he's got a extensive past in the martial arts and he'll be able to whatever. But it should be a little closer. It should probably be maybe more like a 2-1 favorite, maybe less. But yeah, I just think he's in a force to kind of fight that he can win. Even that Brendan Allen fight, dude, he hurt Brendan Allen with a big shot. He could have won that fight if he would have, landed the perfect follow up. And it would have been much different. A fight like this, the line would be much different. So I think Bruno's gonna come out there, crack, do what he does. Hopefully, he's not taking a fucking fall. But I don't think he is. So yeah, we're running with Bruno at this fat plus money price.
Yes, sir,
Magomedov
same.
is okay, but it's like how is he gonna distance himself? He throws some flashy shots every now and then, but I don't trust it.
So going into watching Magomedov, I was thinking to myself, has Magomedov done anything more impressive than knocking out Brad Tavares, which Bruno Silva did just a few months ago? And watching the guy's fights, I don't think he's a bad fighter. I think he is decent, but I don't think he's anywhere good or proven enough to warrant being a more than minus 200 favorite against Bruno Silva because Silva, he's just a banger on the feet. This dude throws hammers. He has crazy power. He's tough. You know, we saw him eat some huge shots from Pereira and make it the full 15 minutes. His chin does kind of go, back and forth. Like sometimes it shows up really good, sometimes not so much. But overall, I think the guy is just a tough guy to outstrike. And Magomedov is purely a striker. I mean, I've seen him wrestle a little bit, but it definitely seems like his A game is, the Martian type game. We're staying on the outside, throwing a lot of flicking kicks. I would imagine he comes from a karate or taekwondo background. And Magomedov, he has fought some decent competition. He hasn't been out of round one too much. The fights where he did go out of round one, he's fighting just bad fighters who aren't pushing a pace. And I just think this fight is going to be much different than any fight Magomedov has had. I think Silva is probably the best opponent he's fought today. Definitely not the case for Bruno Silva. Probably one of the easier opponents that he's fought in his past, 5 to 7 fights. He's had a pretty tough run in the UFC, honestly. And when he gets on top, if he's able to, he has thunderous ground and pound. You can ask, Wellington Turman about that. And even if he's losing fights like he was against Andrew Sanchez, he carries that power late and he's able to shut your lights off at any time. So I just think that if this fight gets to round two, if this fight gets in boxing range, if this fight goes to the grappling, I just think Magomedov is going to look nowhere near minus 275. The only way he could do that is if he is able to keep this fight standing the entire time, keep it at that long range, use his kicks in his range effectively, and just completely outstrike Bruno Silva. But I have not seen anywhere near that evidence to think that that he can do so here. And it's going to be a significant bet, 1.5 units on Bruno Silva at this big dog money plus 235. I think that's a crazy price. Honestly, I think this line is off by like a dollar. It's significantly off. And that's why we're going big on Bruno Silva in the first fight of the night. So starting things off with the dog, a lot of enticing dogs, a few interesting props, but man, I sent out a tweet about this earlier, but these Abu Dhabi cards or London cards or it's somewhere, it's France. We always see a lot of big juiced favorites, typically for the hometown fighters, and I always get roped in. I bet against them. I often lose. I don't give a fuck. I'm doing it again here. I'm going back to the well. Not learning any lessons.
You didn't
And
back one Russian on this whole card, have you?
no, but let's see. No, no, but
One
there
on
are
one Muslim you didn't back. You didn't
no,
support
no,
one Muslim. You're
Abu.
gonna have a Abu,
Abu's
okay.
there we go. And
Okay.
then let's see. I think there was I'm leaning Gafurov, Yahya. We might end up on, you know. So,
Mix those in.
right, but that's gonna take us to most people's favorite segment. Not all. Some people from the shitty state of New Jersey haven't been enjoying it, but we're gonna be rounding things off with the FMK segment, and I got my three for you, locked and loaded, ready to go, and
Please.
I'm gonna give them out. Ready? They are all money line. They are all underdogs. They are all plus 200 range underdogs. Okay, we're
Mhm.
starting things off. The first one, the fight we were just talking about, uh, Silva plus 235. Boom, number one.
Nice.
And then we're
Boom.
going with the co-main event. We're going with Usman plus 270, Volkanovski plus 225.
Yeesh. Damn, FMK. I gotta fuck Mary kill those. All right. So, man, those are tough. All right. So I'm gonna fuck the f- I'm gonna fuck the I'm gonna fuck Alex Volkanovski. Alex
Mhm.
Volkanovski from down under, championship fight. I know what he's gonna give me. He's gonna give me his all. He's gonna try to become one of the greatest in history. Who doesn't want that in their bed at the end of the night or before, whatever it is? So let's go, Alex Volkanovski. I'm gonna marry Bruno Silva. Marrying Bruno
Mm.
Silva. Let's get the wedding early. Let's get the wedding early in the day so we can fucking party the whole rest of the day. these people that get married at like 5:30, 6, 7. No, dude, let's do that. Let's get that out of the way early on, so everybody's got time to party. And then unfortunately, I'm gonna have to kill my boy Kamaru Usman. He might be taking a
Mhm.
fall. He works with what's his name? Kadafov or
Kadyrov,
whatever
Kadyrov, yeah.
Kadyrov. So you never know. So gotta kill him before he kills me. He might be a double agent. Now let me. All right, Martian. I'm gonna give you three here. So
I'm ready.
first, I'm giving you the over in the main event. So minus 125 over 4.5 in the main event. I'm giving you the goes the distance in the Tim Elliott versus Mohamed Makhachev fight, minus 135. And then lastly, I am giving you, I'm going to give you Victor Henry plus 450 to give you to give you a little remix. So FMK those three.
Interesting. Quite the difference in odds there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Lay some juice
well,
or get paid.
yeah, I got it. I got it already. So, the fuck has to be Victor Henry because you're investing small with a potentially massive return to 4.5 times your money. So that's just the type
Yeah.
of bet you want to fuck.
Mm-hmm.
The type of bet I want to kill. I'll go with the GTD and Elliott, even though I've already placed the dollars on this one. It is possible that Mokaev, just being 13 years younger, he just absolutely, athletes his way to a finish on Tim
Right.
Elliott, which Tim Elliott has been submitted several times before. So got to kill that one. And that'll leave me to marry the over in the main event. I just think these boys, they just went the full 5 rounds. They match up pretty evenly. Think it's pretty hard for them to finish one another. So I'll go with that as the most confident of those.
Nice. Perfect.
So the dogs that I'm endorsing, fully endorsing, full stop. Bruno Silva is number one. Medium stop, Abu-Azaitar, full stop, Victor Henry. We also like medium stop on Usman and Volkanovski in the last 2 fights. So
Put them in a round robin, boys and girls. Round robin them.
that's a great idea. Or just parlay them. Honestly, all 5 will probably win. So go ahead and
Our dog money line round robin. You will make that would be a fat. If like 4 of those hit, that'd be fat.
that would be significant. Let's see what
Holy,
the parlay is. I bet it's like two 200 to 1, I would imagine.
where's
Let's
it?
see.
Four teamer? You're talking?
Five.
Oh,
It's 658 to 1.
all right.
658 to 1. That's an
Boom.
easy bet. Um, all right, that's gonna do it. So I think we might be off UFC next week. I'm not sure about that one, but we'll see. We will see long term here. Let me get this answer real quick. We are off next week, so we'll be back in 2 weeks for Almeida versus Lewis in Brazil. And that's going to do it. So, hope you all enjoy the fights this weekend. Enjoy some playoff baseball, NFL this weekend. And, enjoy the fights. Thank you all for listening. Hope you all win some bets. And we'll see you all in 2 weeks before that Brazil card. Peace out, everyone.